Thanks for everyone for joining today. We're happy to be able to provide this important webinar regarding marrying supply and demand in service organizations. We'll start with some introductions. I am Ron Bro. I am the owner and CEO of TopStep. TopStep is a 12-year-old consultancy focused on PSA tools within professional service organizations. We're a longtime NetSuite partner, and we're delighted to have NetSuite co-presenting with us today. We have Jeff Chandler and Michael Calkins presenting with us today, and I will let them introduce themselves. Jeff?
Great. Hi, this is Jeff Chandler. I am a product specialist for professional services automation here at NetSuite. I've been with the company for almost 10 years, and for most of that time, I was actually on the delivery side in our professional services organization, first as an implementation consultant, and then subsequently, I managed a consulting practice within our PS department, so lots of experience both with our set of products as well as in the industry overall.
And this is Michael Calkins. I too am a PSA product specialist here at NetSuite. I've been here a little more than 5 years. Prior to that, though, 30 plus years of being in the services side of the house. So started out as a techie programmer, went into running projects and PMOs and service organizations and various different types of organizations, and was a CEO of an international consulting company of a couple hundred people.
Thanks, Michael. Today's topics, we're going to talk about resource management optimization. We're going to cover sales strategy adjustments. How do we get real-time visibility and reporting of the key business metrics? And how do we go and marry supply with demand? So Jeff will kick us off, starting with our optimizing resource management.
All right, perfect. So, we're really going to start the conversation by looking more at the supply side of the equation, right? Resource management. And especially in light of everything that's going on today with COVID, we're seeing the landscape changing rapidly. Every day, things are different. The way we're operating as businesses is different. What we're seeing and what we're hearing from a lot of our customers is that, customers are pushing work out. In other cases, they're canceling work altogether. Some work that was previously done on site now needs to be done remotely because of quarantining and so forth. So we need ways to be more nimble, more agile, to be able to evaluate our resource pool more frequently. And certainly with everyone working from home, we need to figure out ways to retain our top talent and keeping our employees motivated and busy and interested in the work they're doing. A lot of the companies we talk to are managing a lot of these processes around resource management in spreadsheets or emails or different point solutions, which certainly comes with its own set of challenges, especially in this environment. And spreadsheets just aren't really cutting it. So the question is, how do we really navigate this new set of challenges, especially in light of everything that's going on? How can we treat this current situation as an opportunity? And it really is an opportunity. You all might have more time on your hands than you did 2 or 3 months ago. Given that a lot of businesses slowed down for many companies. So it's a great time to kind of evaluate your current processes and systems and potentially put in new systems and solutions that allow you to be more nimble and agile and get a solid understanding of what your resources are working on and when and where. A lot of companies we're hearing from are looking for a solution that helps them kind of manage their resources and the allocations to project work, because all of that can be really valuable in driving forecast reporting, both from a resource and revenue perspective, and help ensure that you're staffing projects effectively. I mentioned earlier that I ran a professional services practice here at NetSuite, and I really got to see over that time a pretty massive evolution in our own use of systems and tools. We were growing rapidly and experiencing a lot of the same growing pains that we hear commonly from companies we talk to, things like a lack of visibility of what our project teams are working on, difficulty in making changes or pivoting if and when you need to, because the left hand didn't know what the right hand was doing, and all of that really impacts things like customer satisfaction and project profitability. And thankfully, we got to see a lot of evolution. We put some systems in place to better track our resources and forecasts, and it was amazing to see how much more responsive and proactive we could be in making those data-driven decisions once we had systems in place. On the next slides here, I'm going to cover a couple of the types of functionality that we find a lot of services organizations are looking for and benefiting from as it relates to resource management. So, one thing that can be really beneficial is cataloging your employees' skills and qualifications and even interests, like their travel preference, for example. And again, this is a really good opportunity in this downturn if you're one of the many companies that does have more time to do initiatives like that maybe you've been pushing off for a while. Once you have all that information cataloged and indexed, it becomes really easy to search for resources and compare resources side by side, so that when you're staffing projects, it's with well-informed, data-driven information, rather than kind of finger in the air method. Using things like the resources availability, their skills, their geographic location, what kind of job roles they fill, et cetera. Really in order to make sure you're assigning the right person to the right project at the right time. Of course, a way to forecast out work against projects is also essential. And this can really be done in a couple of different ways, depending on the size and the culture of the organization, either in more of a top-down approach or a bottom-up approach. There's no right or wrong way necessarily. It really just depends on what you're after. But having a way to input the expected work in future weeks and months helps drive critically, important forecast reporting, both from a utilization and revenue perspective. Once you layer in things like the project financial data and cost rates and so forth. And being able to, see what your workforce is doing in the coming weeks and months is important, but even more critical in this environment is being able to make changes daily, or in some cases hourly, when things are changing so rapidly as they are today. Lastly, utilization is a key metric for many, if not most, services-based organizations. But the reality that we find is that many of them have to do backflips in order to get that data by, exporting time data from point solutions and pulling that into Excel and running pivot tables and all sorts of stuff. Having a flexible system that provides real-time analysis of, forecast utilization is essential for really making sure you're making the most of your resource pool and getting visibility into what people are scheduled to be working on in the coming weeks and months. And it also allows you to make changes quickly by swapping in one resource for another if a customer makes a change. Not to mention planning out pre-sales projects using generic types of resources, for example. So in the current environment, I think what a lot of companies are finding is that with business slowing down, unfortunately, resources are on the bench more than they'd like to see. And how do we respond to that, right? And the important thing is not to necessarily make knee-jerk headcount decisions simply because we have that excess capacity. I think a better and cheaper move is to start by looking at the sales side first and maybe adjusting strategies there. So with that, I'll hand it over to Ron to tackle that side.
Thanks, Jeff. So as I mentioned, I am the owner and CEO of a consulting firm. So this decline in this economy is impacting us directly, as it is all of you. It's apparent to us that this was not be a very short-term economic downfall, that this has the potential to be long-term. So we have to take action. And as Jeff mentioned, I'm focusing on as much as on our sales strategy as we are on our resource strategy. And focusing on the sales strategy, we really started asking important questions. What are our customers going to do? What would they be willing to buy? And how could we help them buy our services as we go forward? So we looked at 5 different strategies to really kind of help us to carve out additional work, to be able to keep our resources aligned and busy, and help us kind of survive through this downturn. Our first strategy was really looking at what are we selling today and what could we be selling and selling it differently based on the reality of this economy. And so what we found is, we looked at, there are some services that we could sell differently that we might not ever have done in the past because we didn't have a need to. But now we feel like we've got to rethink Top Step and rethink how we sell. So what we're doing is we are taking some of the services and making them bite-sized and easier for customers to consume, reducing the cost of some of these services by helping maybe customers do their own self-evaluation in some cases, maybe coming up with some other remote, smaller offerings that we can do to help customers improve their professional service organization. So we really felt like we needed to take advantage of our niche in the market and really help us come up with some creative services that we could retool and remarket to kind of help start to get a broader audience and maybe help to fill in those gaps with our resourcing pool. Our second strategy really was looking at how do we look at our pricing today. So, profitability is king in any organization, service organization or otherwise. But as you're looking at surviving this downturn, profitability, in my opinion, is taking a bit of a step back over utilization. So what can we do to keep folks busy? We can't afford to lose any of our folks. We can't afford to lay off any of our folks. So I would rather keep them busy and keep them productive, even if it's a lower cost offering. So we started to, again, look at how do we look at our pricing strategy with our customers. Maybe our rates that were at one point a little higher, maybe we're able to adjust those short term. So these discounts and maybe other incentive for customers to take advantage of the services today, or some of the other strategies that we are deploying to try to keep work flowing and be able to keep our folks busy. Our third strategy we looked at was really, it's hard to bring in new customers, but it's important to look at your existing customers because there might be opportunities there. We used to have a saying at Top Step, don't poke the bear. And what this saying referred to is, we would be engaged with customers with a defined scope. And usually a customer would talk about, when this project's over, we want to do this or we want to do that. And a lot of times we would not follow up or the customer wouldn't follow up, and we generally would, determine at some point we might revisit that, but we didn't often proactively go after that work because we just didn't have the bandwidth to do it. And we were afraid if we brought it up to the customer, they would say yes, and we would be in a position to not be able to timely start that work. Well, we have been preaching now to not only poke the bear, but let's kick the bear. We are meeting with our customers. We're talking about some of those, bringing up some of those conversations. We're starting to have customers say this is a good time to take those projects that we thought were phases 2 or 3 and take those from the back burner and push them up front. And move forward. So we're having a good bit of success just reconnecting with our existing customers and getting them to reconsider some of that future work and reprioritize it. And, we feel like this is a really good strategy for us moving forward. Another really important strategy for us, we feel, is, you have to get really creative in this tough environment. And also look at all of your options, which includes look at all of your relationships with your partners, your customers. As a NetSuite partner, an Oracle partner, we looked at what can we do in conjunction with NetSuite and Oracle to maybe help our customers to be able to buy services, buy software, and maybe have some flexible payment options. So, we've working closely with NetSuite Oracle to come up with, how can we come up with some flexible subscription costs, maybe some payment deferrals, or maybe bundling services and licenses with lease options. So these are some of the creative out of the box strategies that we're looking to employ, and we're actually starting to see this pay off as well, is where we can work with those larger partners that have the ability to come up with these sort of strategies and kind of piggyback on those. And it's a win-win for everybody in that scenario. So we're very excited about this opportunity. And I'll say lastly, you know, one of the first things we did was really we had to examine our pipeline. So we looked in our PSA system. We looked at all of our upcoming work. We looked at all of the resource planning around that upcoming work. And we really had to take an honest look to say, is this work going to go forward? Is it going to push? Is it going to get canceled? And we had to, you know, have those conversations with our customers. And, you know, we're constantly looking at our pipeline, constantly making changes by the hour, by the day. And so to really kind of really paint the future in a realistic manner. We don't want it to be overinflated. We don't want it to be underinflated. But it's important that when we run our supply and demand reports, that we really get an accurate picture of what our sales looks like in the upcoming. So we feel like these 5 strategies are going to help us get through this economy and potentially strive in this economy. So with that, I will turn it over to Michael to talk about the importance of metrics and reporting.
Thanks, Ron. So as both Ron and Jeff pointed out, there are times when you got to kind of take a pause and analyze the situation you're in order to make a wise decision. And during these times, it's certainly awkward to make yourself take that stop and to look at the things that you have going on in your environment in order to do so. But there are 2 cognitive behaviors that are important in this process. One is called updating, which is really revising your thoughts based on the new information that is coming into you and now in play. The other is called doubting. This is where one considers the ongoing and potential actions in play and determine whether these actions need to be modified, changed, or discarded. An example of this is when I was in a government consulting organization during a budget shutdown. First, we were kind of told that it was likely to only last a couple of days. After that period of time, you were quite obvious that we were seeing that it was going to take a few weeks to do. So what we had to do is we had to then update with our information, review our current plans of how we were building our business and modifying and tracking our business for each of our projects to figure out what needed to be modified, what needed to be created, what needed to be changed. In this current environment, another example might be of you receiving news from a client that there's new work that can be accomplished remotely. Now, this would be nice because it brings about a more positive outcome, but you see the process is the same. And I'm sure many of you are running through this process daily, if not more. The important thing for leaders in challenging times is that they need to be decisive. This builds their organization's confidence in them and motivates others to work alongside the leadership team in searching for, discussing solutions to address the challenges that are there. So, how has reporting changed? You can no longer just go down the hall, request data from somebody, and be okay with a process taking days for you to gather the information required. Your updating and your doubting processes can't wait that long. So for many, this is a new requirement. You and your team must have a system that can give you real-time information that's shareable across geographic boundaries, like between home offices. If the system provides that kind of ability and maybe some what-if analysis to let you explore your thoughts and actions to make those better doubting decisions as to what you want to do, then all the better. So what kind of reports do I find key during these unpredictable times? The next slide kind of talks about what I call key reports, right? So things that are important to me, and we're going to kind of review a couple of these and show us a couple images. Project portfolio statuses, right? How to get a snapshot of where things are at this very moment. Resource forecasts, we're kind of, Jeff has shown some of that, and we'll continue to answer a couple of those questions as well. And then cash flow. So if we go to the next slide, Ron. So when I talk about project portfolio reporting, what was really important to me is my project managers are doing their job. I don't have the opportunity to go look at 20, 30, 50 different jobs, right? I needed to go and focus my time on the priorities, and I wanted to manage by exception. So being able to have a real-time report that I could run that showed my portfolio, whether it's by client, by a project manager, by different service type that I have, that allows me to see really quickly what projects I need to focus on that have the concerns or the issues that I can help address. Right. You'll see this one has a nice stoplight charts, right? Very easy to look at and see where I should be spending my time. On the next slide. This is more of what I consider real-time project. I'm going to call it reporting because there's communication going back on that might take moments or hours between those different communication elements, right? So in this case, a first feed came in that says, now what? The client says we can't work on site anymore. They're being locked down. And then there's a progress there of sending communication back and forth between the project manager and senior leadership to determine what needs to be done, making sure that's there, and understanding what the current status is along the way. Next one, Ron. The last one is, even in the best of times in a smaller business, cash flow is really important. Well, it becomes critical in times like this where you're not sure exactly what's going on. And Ron talked about profitability as not being a key indicator anymore that I'm chasing. I want to make sure my resources are employed, that I'm keeping as many of them active as possible. Right, so in order to do that, I got to have an understanding of how much am I going to look at billing each month, how much is my cost going to be each month, and kind of throw out that projection of my profit and what I'm chasing at. But I want to know how the business is going to function in the next period of time, whether it be weeks or months or whatever. So a cash flow reporting is certainly something that you need to do. And again, while I was reporting, if it takes you days to figure out how to get this information, right? By the time you get it, the world could change. So it's really important, again, to drive the behavior, be able to do on-time, real-time reporting that the data is all in one place. So with that, we'll go to Jeff next.
Excellent. So, the concept of supply and demand in the context of a services based organization, includes resourcing, which is the supply side. You've got your sales pipeline information on the demand side, but how do you bring that together and marry those two components to, again, gain visibility into the business and what the coming weeks and months are going to look like in order to optimize your workforce and keep, ensure your business stays healthy through this downturn? That's really the question. And this is where disparate systems and point solutions start to fall apart. It makes it really impossible to get that kind of visibility. And it's where the benefits of implementing a more unified solution come in. The ability to tie together those various aspects of your services-based business, including, among other things, the demand side, your resources, along with the sales pipeline data, in order to provide easy access to that data and help you evaluate and run your services-based business. What we find all the time with the customers that we talk to is that customers care about data. Businesses care about data. They want reports. They want dashboards. Companies are looking for a solution where they can get a consolidated view of their workforce, their sales, their forecast utilization, their project status, all in one single system without having to do a bunch of Excel jockeying and manipulation. And here at NetSuite, we've always had a pretty remote culture, given that it's cloud-based software that we're selling. And so we've always operated this way. I don't think we'd be able to operate without such a flexible system in place to be able to tie those various components together. And now what we're seeing, of course, is that all businesses are being forced into that remote kind of culture, whether they like it or not, given COVID-19. And one thing I've been thinking about lately and talking with a few people about is I think it'll be really interesting to see if that's a component that sticks. If this remote culture that's being thrust upon us, upon every organization, is something that will stick as we come out of the other side of this. And if so, it's all the more important to get systems in place now so that everyone's reading from the same sheet of music, so to speak, and you've got reliable data at your fingertips. So again, to me, it's about looking at this time as an opportunity to do some, call it spring cleaning, and take a hard look at your systems and processes and use it as an opportunity to improve upon them so that you're well positioned to come out of this downturn, ahead of your competitors and poised for growth. Ron, I'll turn it back to you to kind of wrap things up.
Thanks, John. Okay, so bottom line, you need to take action today. Sitting back and being passive in today's economy is not an acceptable answer. What can you do? Make sure you have a solid resource strategy and making sure you have visibility into your utilization. You know what skills you have available to take advantage of, and use this as an asset to go out and find more business. Adjust your sales strategy. Use that data from your resource plans and be able to put together those offerings that you feel like could put you in a good position with your customers. Make sure you report on your data daily and make sure you communicate your current and future state with your organization. Here at Top Step, we have weekly meetings. We talk about the economy. We talk about our pipeline. We talk about our utilization. We talk about it every week. We're open and honest. We want to make sure people are comfortable and they know we have a strategy and they know we have a plan and they know they have a job long term. And then have a system and have a strategy for making sure that your resource and your sales strategy are aligned. And having the real-time data that we've been speaking about, having visibility, is really a key. Lastly, whatever PSA tool you're using to run your business today, make sure you lean on that tool. Make sure that you are getting everything out of it you need to run your business. Make sure you have visibility across your organization, and make sure you can trust your data. When you run reports real time, make sure that data is trusting and available to a wide audience and gives you the answers to the questions that we all need to be asking today. With that, I'd like to thank everyone for participating today, and I would like to open it up for questions.